Hi, this is the Hellion from the Hellion Rocks. You know, we keep talking to these cool rockers that keep doing cool projects. I got Joey Vera today. We're going to talk about Motor Sister. What's up, man?
I'm good. How are you doing? Everything's cool.
Great. You know, I'm really excited about this project. I've actually spent the last couple of days checking it out, and, you know, it's really, really good. Why don't you, in your own words, tell me about Motor Sister?
Well, it's a little bit of a long-winded story, but the way it came about was Scott Ian, who's a friend of mine, was having his 50th birthday, and his wife, Pearl Aday, was going to throw him a party. And she said, you know, what do you want to do for your party? You know, let's have it here at the house or whatever. He said he wanted a small party, just close friends. And you know what would be cool is if I could get together a band and just play Mother Superior songs, because he's a huge Mother Superior fan. So he called up Jim Wilson, who's a main songwriter and main guy in Mother Superior. The band has been defunct for several years now. And he told him this idea. He said, you know, would you be into, like, coming to my party and just hanging out and playing some of your tunes with me and maybe some friends? And, of course, Jim said, well, yeah, I'd be honored for you if you did that. It'd be great. So once they agreed on that, Scott started to put together his band of friends that would come to the party and also sit in and play. And he basically formed the band and said he asked me to play, and he asked John Tempesta to play. And then that was it. We called everybody and said, are you into it? And we're all fans of Mother Superior too. And we thought it would be something really fun to do. So we basically, they picked 12 songs, and the exact same 12 songs that are on the record are on the, with songs we played at the party. And so we learned those 12 songs, and the day before the party we had a rehearsal just to play the songs once before, our friends watched us play it. And so we played the first song, and it was like we'd been playing together for like months and months. It was the weirdest thing. It was just so. We finished the song, we just looked at each other like, holy shit, it's fun. And it was super tight, and everybody knew the parts, and it was weird. It was just a really cool vibe. And so that went on for the entire rehearsal, and that we played the party the next day, and that was even like tenfold. I mean, there was just energy in the room, and people in the crowd, there were friends that were there, and we were all just drinking. It wasn't like a gig, it was like super loose. So we were just having fun with it, and it was just a blast, man. It was just so much fun. It was, it's kind of like saying, like, if your friend was like Angus Young or something, it's like, Angus, come to my party and let's jam some AC/DC tunes, and get out, right? And get them to jamming with AC/DC. It's like, this is, I mean, how much fun is that? It's great. So there was the equivalent of doing this was band that we've all seen play live many times in LA, and we were big fans of, and it was just really cool. And so that was the party. We were just like reveling in the fact that we had so much fun doing it, and we weren't thinking about anything else. And it kind of was a fluke a little bit. A couple of days later, the photographer, Niels Lozauer, who was at the party, he was also a big Mother Superior fan, so he was completely blown away. Like, I never thought I'd see this ever again. This was the best thing ever, And so he was in a conversation with someone at Metal Blade Records, Mike Faley, and just in passing was like, yeah, on Saturday night I was at this thing. It was incredible. He told them all about it and how great it was and how he was blown away and just completely stoked, and hung up the phone. And then he walked into my wife's office, who also works in Metal Blade, and he walked into her office and said, hey, why didn't you tell me about this party? How come I wasn't invited, and how come you didn't tell me about it and everything. And she was like, hey, wait a minute, it was just a party. It wasn't like a business thing, It was just close friends of the band, and that was it. And they played, and it was magic, and it was awesome. And so he said, well, she told him all about it as well. And so he said, well, shit. I mean, it sounds amazing. Maybe we should do something with it. Should we ask them if they want to do something? Like maybe make a record, do it again or something. And so she brought the idea to the band, to the rest of us, and we were like, well, I mean, it sounded like at first it sounded like a, are you sure this is, really? You really want to make a record with a band that just played a party is kind of unusual,
Right, quick.
Like having not even heard the band. Like never even heard the band. They offered us a deal to make a record. We were like, wow, sure. But, if we do this, it has to be in the same spirit that we did it at the party. We can't do like pre-production and go in with a producer and rewrite the music and spend, 3 weeks to a month making a record. And then, we said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it like we did it at the studio, at the party. So that's what we did. We rehearsed once and we went in, and first day we banged out 6 songs, played it live. Second song, another 6 songs, and it was done. So,
it has that feel. It really does.
Well, good. I mean, that's what we were trying to recapture, was this sort of anxiety, a little bit of, like you're playing live, like you can't fuck up. You have to just, but you also are putting out this energy that is like, you're not worried about it being too perfect. You want it to vibe, but there's this weird, wire you kind of walk on when you're doing it that way, So it was great. I mean, we had a blast doing it.
Nice. You and I are the same age, so we came from, the same musical upbringing, where back in the day, it was about the vibe. It was about, these guys weren't really thinking about, the monetary gain. They were actually making the music they wanted to from their hearts and souls. And that was the kind of vibe I got when I first got into Mother Superior. It's a band that near and dear to my heart for a long time. So when I heard this project was coming out, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, with the players involved. I heard who was involved with it. And then actually sitting down and listening to the record, the vibe and spirit of Mother Superior lives in the songs, but yet there's a little bit of a spin to them with you guys just playing that, gives it a little bit of breath of fresh air. Not that it needed it, but it did. It's evident in there. And the feel and the vibe of the record, it's there. In this day and age, I think that a lot of musicians, a lot of experienced and seasoned musicians, are realizing that we've got to say screw it and get back to the heart and soul of the music, and that's what I'm getting from you guys.
That's great, man. I mean, you hit it hit the nail on the head. We all come from that area, and the fact that you're new of Mother Superior's past records, you know where they were coming from, and that's where we drew inspiration from those guys they were doing it the way it used to be done, and they were doing it really well, and that was probably one of the biggest appeals of that band, was that they were just like a real rock and roll band. They really are, and so we had to, that's a lot to live up to, so we had to make sure that we were going to do it justice by just doing it the same way in our own way. But I'm glad that it translated, to people like you who are, might be more scrutinizing because, hey, you're familiar with the other material, and this is, we're not trying to outdo it or anything, and I think it's evident that we're not. It's different. It's just on the side, it's just another version of it.
And it worked. To be honest with you, I drug out the old Mother Superior records and played them.
Did you do an A/B?
I did, man. I played them side by side, and I was like, all right, man. They're, not just because I got you on the phone here, but I'm not disappointed with any of the 12 tracks. I mean, they all right spot on, man, spot on. I would listen to that record that you guys made, over and over and over again.
Cool, that's awesome. I haven't actually done that yet, but I do have, I have tons of Mother Superior on my iPod, and occasionally, now that we have the new record's in there too, so it'll be spinning, random, and then I'm like, is this our version or is this the original version? For a second, it takes a few minutes to get, but that's good because I wanted to, I think it should be in the same boat,
It is, man. There's a lot of guys out there, a lot of bands out there that do covers, and a lot of times I cringe. They just didn't do it for me, and again, to be honest with you, I'm familiar with all the players in Motor Sister, and familiar with all your back catalogs of work, and I was like, okay, let's see if I got any hope for this, and
yeah,
I did. I mean, I was like, right on. It really, really worked, and again, kudos to you guys for that. But a big question I've got for you is this going to be a one-off, or are we going to look at you guys writing some new tracks together?
We have already talked about doing that. I mean, we already have a working relationship with all of these people. We're not strangers to writing together. There's different incarnations of Pearl's solo band and Jim's solo thing. I've worked with Jim as kind of a engineer and producer on some of his solo stuff as well as Mother Superior stuff. I've worked with Scott in other capacities where we did these things with Brian Hussein, and so we're no strangers to working together. And so just recently, this was sort of the obvious next thing to enter our consciousness was, what's going to happen next, And so we have already talked about that. We just got back from New York. We were all together for the last week, and we talked about it, and we decided that we're going to start doing it. Jim's already got some riffs that he's got at home, and we've already decided that we wanted to start to see what happens. This is, again, we're dealing with people who are all close friends, and we have a lot of respect for each other, and we have a great time hanging out together. So we're just going to keep this thing kind of light and not heavy. It's not going to be like, okay, the record label says you have to write the next record now, and each song must be a hit single. It's not none of that crap.
Thank goodness.
The vibe is going to stay the same, and we're just going to write great music. It's going to be guided by Jim because we all look up to him as the songwriter. So it's all going to be, we know where everybody stands on, and you know what I mean, and the totem pole, and it's not that it's a pecking order or anything, because it's not like that, but we just know with respect where this is coming from. It's all coming from what we call the genius of Jim Wilson. So,
right.
We're excited. I mean, we want to see what we can produce with this core band, and I don't know if maybe we'll throw in a couple of Mother Superior tunes as well as writing some new music and maybe make another record. So those are things that are still going to be sort of worked out, and it'll come out organically. That's how we want it to stay. We want it to happen organically and naturally, and however the snowball forms as it goes down the hill, we're just going to help guide it,
That's perfect. And listening to the tracks, you could tell that there's egos were checked at the door. The flow of everything works. There's nobody trying to outdo each other on the record. It all fits, and everybody's playing, like a clenched fist. Everything's tight, and I'm really, really digging it. I'm really appreciative that somebody took the time to go back and check these Mother Superior tracks out. To me, that's a band that really didn't have its due.
I agree, man. When did you first get turned on to them?
I had a friend. I think the first record that came over and said, "Oh, you got to check this band out." and I was hooked ever since. You know, so.
Wow. So you've been into them longer than I have, because I didn't learn about them until, you know, Scott first heard about them when they did those 2 Rollins records, and then it was after that he kind of found out who they were and became friends with Jim, and then kind of went back, and so I didn't learn about them until maybe 05 or something.
Yeah, I think it was 05. I think it was 95, 96 the first time I ever heard of them.
Yeah, that's about when they first started making records. It was right around then.
And you know, I've always appreciated the artists that I could tell weren't trying to sit down and write a hit song. You know, to me that's forced, and to me it just sounds unnatural. Yeah, you know, some bands have had success with that, but I prefer, like you said, organic music. I prefer when I can put something on, groove to it, get lost in it. You know, find myself, wow, where did the last half hour go? You know, that's what I kind of dig. Now, are we looking at, you guys going to hit the road at any time, just do one-off shows, or are you schedule too tight for that?
Well, schedule is getting a little tight the further we go into summer, but like I said, we just played New York on Thursday, and then we're playing LA on March 10th, and then we play San Francisco March 11th. And I think that is all so far. But in the months coming after that, whenever we have holes, we're going to try to we're trying to do like a Midwest thing, like Chicago and Michigan, kind of a run.
Yeah.
And maybe even, I don't know, maybe something in Texas I think would be even fun too. But you know, it's hard for us to put together something that's lengthy, you know, because Scott's working on a new Anthrax record, and that's going to come out in the fall, and he's touring with Volbeat in the spring, and Jim's doing more stuff with Daniel Lanois, and Pearl's finishing up her solo record, and Armand Saint has dates in the spring and in the summer. So, but, you know, like I said, this isn't like a stress thing, you know, so
right.
We just want to keep it light, and when things open up, we do want to go out and play shows, because that's, you know, playing these songs live is like, it's just the best. It's awesome. So it's I think that there'll be more of that to come.
Nice, man. Well, I know you've got a busy schedule, and I appreciate you taking the time and making these tracks. One more thing before I cut you free, though. How cool was it to play a live show and look over and see those guys on the stage with you, man? How cool is that?
It's awesome. I mean, other than the party, which, like I said, wasn't really a gig. It was just, I don't know, it was sort of like a live rehearsal or something. But playing the gig, though, playing like in a club where, you know, it's you know, for lack of a better word, it's an arena where people are coming to see you, and the place was packed, you know, and you had sound check, you know, all the things building up to the show, you know, and you're just having a great time playing these tunes, and, you know, you're just in the moment at that time, you know, you're not thinking about anything, and the world stops, and it's the best. It's the best. You're looking over and, you know, going up, making faces at John Tempesta, and we're just having a blast, totally getting into it and rocking out with Scott and Jim and Pearl, and everybody's doing their thing, you know, and we're all doing it at the same time, and it's just so much. It's great, and it's the whole reason all of us got into music in the very first place.
Nice. Well, all right. Give a shout out to this is going out to 170 countries, man. What do you got to tell the world?
Wow. Tell the world. Didn't Stephen Pearcy do that already? What am I going to tell the world? Well, I'm going to thank the world right now. I'm going to thank everybody that, you know, like, listens to your podcast and listens the projects that I get involved with and support the arts, support the music scene, because we can't do this without people. We can't do this without listeners and fans and people who care and give a shit and relate. And maybe even if you don't relate, you open it up long enough to give it a chance. Without listeners and fans, we have nothing. So I always thank everybody I thank you for the support, and I hope I'll see you all very soon.
Very cool. We're talking to Joey Vera from Motor Sister. Get out, buy some music, buy the record, keep these guys playing music. It's the Hellion Rocks. We're out.